Metaphorically, my interest in ancient civilization was born with me. When I was very young, I already had a strong interest in antiquities, especially in Egyptian and Roman civilizations. But I had a very important event in my life. I believe it was a crucial moment in my growth. It was in September, the first days of the month, and I was 9 years old, and I was at home with my grandfather. And that day, I was flicking through my school book, looking for topics or pictures of my interest, when on a page in the middle, I saw for the first time the image of the three major pyramids of Giza. As French say, it was a coup de foudre, just like a flash in the night. And I was really fascinated by the power of the buildings, and since that day, Giza pyramids have become a priority in my mind. So in the time I felt the wish to know more details about the monuments. At that time in Italy, at the beginning of 70s, we had no computer at home and any internet connection. So the only way to do researches was to buy books or to go to libraries. A very important moment was when, at 14, I bought my first book about the ancient Egypt, and the title of the book is The Egyptian Civilization, wrote by Alan Gardiner, one of the most famous English Egyptologists. I bought the book because I want to know more details about the monuments. For example, when the pyramids were built, or who built them, or how did the Egyptians build the monuments. At the time, I read many books on that subject wrote by the main archaeologists such as William Flinders Petrie, Ian Shaw, Richard Wilkinson, or many other archaeologists or Egyptologists of our time. I learned many things, and above all, I understand what is the academic purpose about the Giza Plateau and known monuments that were built down the Nile. I discovered, for example, the workers of the three famous pharaohs, Cheops, Khafre, and Mycerinus, built the pyramids during the 4th dynasty. I also heard that the pyramids were built by using stone, particularly sandstone, limestone, and granite, and that the average weight of the sandstone blocks is 3 tons, while the granite blocks used to build the so-called king chamber and the jet have an average weight of 60 tons more or less. What is very interesting is that the Egyptians extracted granite from Aswan quarries in the south of Egypt, 800 kilometers far away from Giza, and according to Egyptologists, they carried the blocks of 70 tons across the desert. What struck the most is that Egyptologists stated that workers pushed wooden sledges across the desert because they didn't know the use of the wheel. Honestly, I can't imagine the scene because it is impossible for me to understand the sense of all this. More other scholars suggest that the blocks were transported across the Nile to Giza, but they have any proofs of the existence of machines for charging the ships, for example, on any evidence of a merchant fleet, as the case required during the ancient kingdom. Those are not the only doubts I had, obviously. For example, according to academics, the pyramids were built during the Old Kingdom, between 2400 and 2200 before Christ, more or less. More or less because there is still no agreement on the dating among scholars. But if we analyze the monuments, we can see what a complex structure they had. According to me, the builders needed an accurate knowledge of engineering and architecture to build them, abilities that dynastic Egyptians were unaware. It's even funnier that Egyptologists and anthropologists pointed out that during the Old Kingdom, the Egyptians could be seen as a semi-primitive civilization that hardly knew the early farming systems, for example, and they had very simple tools in wood and copper. So the questions are, how is it possible to combine all those contradictions? Now, everybody knows the building's complexity, particularly if we take a look to the chamber's disposition inside the Great Pyramid. Imagine, just for a while, to be on the Giza Plateau at the time of Egyptian civilization. All around hundreds of workers near the stones waiting for an engineer's order explaining how to put a stone on each other, or to fix the conduit's inclination, or to align the monuments with the stars or geographical points. Are you imagining the scene? Do you imagine a semi-primitive civilization discussing inclined planes, angles, geometry, and perfect placement of the blocks, using just only wooden hammers and copper tools? The last question is, how is it possible that the dynastic Egyptians conceived such a project? To build the pyramids, the builders needed a kind of a technical drawing to establish the correct position of the chambers, or of the conduits, or of the shafts into the king's chamber or queen's chamber. Otherwise, it was impossible to build the pyramids as we can appreciate today. A technical drawing is also important to convey orders to the workers, explaining details of the project for perfect results. How did they make the job during the dynastic age without having any source? And above all, how did the Egyptians make pyramids if they didn't know perspective and three-dimensionality? Those are just few doubts that pushed me to study the quest from a different point of view. I believe that archaeologists use stereotypes and criteria of research out of date. Along the time, many Egyptologists gave a great support in the effort to shed light on the mysteries of the past. They have done a great job, and we must be grateful for their attitude and sacrifice. But at the same time, I must say that almost all theories concerning the mysteries of Giza are based just only on a subjective interpretations without proofs. Times ago, I had a call with my good friend Jean-Paul Bova, Robert's brother, and we discussed about the secret key to achieve the mysteries of the pyramid civilization. And this suggested an interesting metaphoric example to understand the path we must follow. This is an A4 paper with descriptions, and it has precise dimensions, 21 centimeters for 29.7. Now 21 is an entire number, but why 29.7 and not an entire number such as 29, for example, or 30? Because there is a ratio in its sides. In fact, the relationship between numbers gives as a result the number 1.4142, etc. Why is it a remarkable number? Because it is the square root of the number 2. What does it mean? The answer is that in 5,000 or 10,000 years, the future generation of archaeologists that will have the chance to find the A4 paper, very probably they will not understand the alphabet or the words inscribed, but using the universal language through its tool, the number, they will discover that in our time we were able to calculate relationship among numbers and the square root of a number. This is the only way to convey a message in the future, because the number, the tool of the universal language, has no time and space. So, if the lost civilization of Giza was an advanced civilization, the only way to convey their message in the future was through the science, and science is number. So, when I started my researches, I was aware that the time to focus the quest from a different point of view had come. My first step was to understand what real proof we had to establish a possible connection between the Great Pyramid and Cheops. So, in 2000, I went to Giza to investigate the matter on the field, looking for clues helping me to unveil the mystery of the Great Pyramid.